Welcome back to the City Current Show. I'm your host, Jeremy Park. We're always honored to bring you inspiring stories of individuals and organizations making a difference and powering the good. And we're honored to be with our friend, Brandon Wellford. He's a partner with B2b Cfo. And Brandon, how are you doing?
Great. How are you today, Jeremy?
Doing very well. Let's start out. We've known you for a long time. You have a long history with Memphis Bioworks and working with the startup community. You're heavily involved in the community, working with nonprofits and giving back as well. So give us a little bit of your personal story and what led you to get involved with B2b Cfo, and then we'll dive into everything you do with B2b Cfo.
Sure. Well, I worked for Memphis Bioworks for 17 years. And so after supporting startup companies and providing early stage capital for their development, along with managing the financing of several construction projects in the medical center, I was interested in continuing this same line of work for local companies. B2b Cfo provides a platform for this work in which we believe in improving the lives of business owners. We improve their lives by understanding their goals and removing barriers that get in their way. We have proprietary tools and processes to support the more than 35 years of expertise that I have. The benefits can include reduced cash flow worries, increased company value, reduced stress, more free time, and helping with the sale of a business. We provide an affordable solution for companies to have a strategic business advisor. There are over 150 B2b Cfo partners across the U.S., and we can provide services for short-term projects as well as be a long-term trusted advisor for your business.
Talk about the size. When you look at the company size, what's a good fit for you and B2b Cfo? So talk about fit.
Our goal is to work for privately owned businesses that range in size and revenue, typically between 1 million and 75 million. And there's about 450,000 companies in the U.S. that fit that segment of the market, and so that's our sweet spot.
You on your end have a Gap Diagnostic Analysis. I want you to talk about that and lead that into when you're looking at a fit and the value that you can bring, some of the questions that you like to ask. So describe the Gap Diagnostic Analysis.
Sure. Well, the B2b Cfo Discovery Analysis is a complementary service that we offer. When we first meet with a business owner, we want to understand their big picture view of the business. And including in the big picture is whether they want to sell the business, and that could be in 1 year or 20 years from now, but it's helpful to understand their overall goals for the business. We perform a brief interview of the business owner and gather some initial data, and then we confidentially compare a company's key performance indicators to similar companies with similar revenue and present this complimentary report to the owner. And with this information, we can prepare a plan for the business owner to understand how to reach their goals. For example, if they tell me that in 3 years they want to sell their business for $5 million, we'll start with their current status and prepare a plan to reach their goal.
What you mentioned the KPIs, the key performance indicators. What are some of the key performance indicators that you're looking at to benchmark?
A lot of them are, financially oriented, but it can also, depending on the industry, there can be individual KPIs that we can also capture and look at and compare to others. But for the most part, they're, financial things. A lot of them relate to, what are your gross margins and how did they compare to your peers out there? And we can boil it down and compare it to your peers either in a region or across the whole US. And sometimes that can make a difference.
For those who are thinking about selling their business, we hear a lot about terms like Ebitda and profitability and margins. What are some of the things that business owners need to be paying attention to be able to maximize the value of their business?
Well, a lot of them do look at Ebitda, which is earnings before interest, taxes, depreciation, and amortization. And so, that is a benchmark. Sometimes people talk about a multiple of revenue. At the end of the day, it really all comes down to cash. How much cash does the business generate? And that's really going to be the true measure of the value of a business. You could be performing below or above whatever the KPIs for your industry are. But at the end of the day, a buyer is going to look at how much cash you're generating as a business and what that's worth to them. There can also be some additional measures that can make a difference, and which include, if it's a competitor and they're trying to get your customers, then that could be one price, or there's a host of different things that can impact the value and how a buyer will look at the potential opportunity to buy your business.
Give me one or two things that you wish every business owner knew. So to make your life a little easier and you stepping in, what are some things that you wish they would know? So things they would start doing right now, documents, finding what are some things they could be doing to set themselves in the best position?
Well, it's best to start a process, 2 or 3 years before you want to sell your business. And so that's always helpful if possible. We help a company assemble their due diligence materials that a buyer will need to look at. And it just helps the process in the long run to be prepared. It's a lot of companies also get distracted by the process, and it's important that they continue to run the business and make sure it's operating as efficiently as possible during a sale process. And it's just important to have your business in tip-top shape before you go out to the market, and make sure you can maximize that value in the long run.
Talk about cash flow management, increasing cash flow. Give us a little bit of your world when it comes to the cash flow side.
Sure. Well, increasing cash flow can mean increasing the money you have in the bank, having growth capital, or simply not having to worry about cash when you're on a vacation. Many companies find that when they're growing, though, that they have less cash in the bank and they're less profitable than they were when they were smaller. It's sort of counterintuitive, but we help them avoid the pitfalls that can occur like this by using cash flow projections and by looking for bank and other financing sources to support their growth. And then by increasing their cash flow, we're helping them increase the company's overall value. And it's just like when you go to a doctor's visit, we evaluate a company's current conditions and we prescribe solutions to meet the needs of the business.
From a CFO's perspective, there's a lot going on, obviously, between interest rates rising and all these things that, are kind of things going on in the economy. What, from your vantage point, though, has your attention? So what are some of the trends or things that have your attention right now as a CFO?
Probably the biggest one right now is inflation. A lot of owners are getting, realizing cost increases. And so the prices of their the goods they're providing are going up. And so you've got to figure out how you're going to respond to that. Will the customers accept an increase? I found that most people today understand the current environment and are willing to pay a little bit more. But you need to make sure that you're still competitive with in the market when you do increase prices. So it's a tricky thing. But a few examples lately, I think all of us sometimes go out to eat, or we go pick something up, and the cost of the products they use just to package your food to go have gone up a lot. And so a lot of companies or a lot of restaurants lately are having basically a surcharge for to-go orders to try to cover that. And so you've just got to be careful about it. But inflation is probably one of the biggest challenges for business owners today.
Talk about it from that vantage point of you get to see different industries, like you're talking about benchmark it, not just locally and regionally, but nationally. Talk about some of those advantages of being able to really share best practices, benchmarks, expertise, and pull that in on your end as a real help for a company that's going through these challenges. So stepping in to really help guide them, obviously through B2b Cfo. So talk about it kind of from that consultative approach of being hands-on, but being able to look around at what's going on and offer true guidance.
Well, sure. Well, we have some proprietary materials that we use for our work, but probably the greatest resource we have is there's over 150 partners, and we're closely tied together, and we have a forum where we exchange questions and responses every day. And so, a perfect example is I had a partner in Texas that had a client that was in the tree farmer and just wanted to understand more about that business. And so they reached out to the group, and it turned out one of our partners, newer partners, actually operated a tree farm. And so, most of us, have direct business experience. So we bring that to the table and we share that with our other partners. And so it's just a great resource to have people across the country and our partners that support, the work that we do individually for different companies.
Yeah. I mentioned at the onset, you and your family are very philanthropic, very involved in the community. Give us a little bit just on some of the nonprofits and the causes that are near and dear to you and your family.
Well, sure. Well, after working in the sort of startup community for a number of years, that group of people, the people who are out, entrepreneurs starting new ventures, are always something that are important to us. We have a special needs son, and so groups out there that provide services to the disabled and the special needs communities are very important to us. I've been a lifelong blood donor, and so that's the other area. I'm a regular donor and support that on a regular basis, and so that's the other third area that I participate in.
Give us a little bit when you talk about B2b Cfo and obviously your background, but tied to nonprofits. So for the nonprofits that are listening and watching and paying attention, talk about how you're able to help them.
Well, sure. Well, I have a lot of experience working with nonprofits and specifically with grants and managing, a number of grants, both on the local, state, federal, and private areas. And so, the nonprofit world is very unique, and it has a lot of challenges that privately owned businesses don't have. And, having to track the sources of their revenue and expenses and match those up and staying in compliance with some of the regulations they have with grants. And so, I with that background and experience, I can be a resource to nonprofits and offer some best practice information and be a resource to them as well.
What's something that when you look at for nonprofits, once again, specifically, what's something that you would offer for them as a tip when it comes to being, mindful and good stewards of their financial resources? What's just one general tip you would offer up for them?
Really just having an accounting system that tracks their expenses by grants, just to make sure that they're in compliance with the rules and regulations. I think we've all read in the paper situations where, people have gotten in trouble, or nonprofits have gotten in trouble by not spending the money as they should have, according to the terms of the grants. And so that's probably the biggest area, is to make sure they stay in compliance with their grantors' request. If not, they're not going to get the next grant. And so it's just critical for that, for them to be in compliance.
Give me one more thing that you wish everyone knew about B2b Cfo.
Gosh, you've given me so much opportunity to share today. I appreciate that. But just I know a lot of people are maybe hesitant to call in someone if they think they need help, but we come in and spend several hours for free, and we'll give an honest assessment of whether or not we can help them or not. And if we can't help them, we'll tell them why, and hopefully point them in the right direction with somebody who can. But again, we do start out with a complimentary process where we try to show them what we can offer, and if we can't help them, then that's great too. But we just want all business owners to be as successful as we can, because it's so important to our overall economy that this sector of the market is healthy and strong.
Absolutely. Wrap up with contact information. So where can we go to learn more about B2b Cfo, and also obviously connect in with you directly?
Sure. We have a website, B2b Cfo.com. My email address is Brandon Wellford, BrandonWellford at B2bCFO.com, where I could be reached at 901-246-7112.
Well, Brandon, greatly appreciate all you do, and appreciate you coming on the show. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Jeremy.